Have you ever felt that an innocent delivery was watching you from the inside, as if what you were carrying wanted to talk to you? Before we dive into this story, subscribe right now and stay until the end, because what I'm about to tell you is not a common tale. It's the night a deliveryman opened a coffin and heard a voice. My name is Tomas Herrera, though on the street they call me Tico. I've been a deliveryman since I was 18 and a half, and if there's one thing the steering wheel of a van hot as an oven at noon has taught me, it's that the city never sleeps, it only blinks. I live leaning on other people's schedules. I open shops before the owners to drop off merchandise, wake up kennels with bulk dog food, ring doorbells at impossible hours with packages nobody ordered but everyone expects. I'm a ghost with a reflective vest. I work for Rapido Rojo, yes, with that O at the end that looks like a printing error, an express courier that pays you on time, but squeezes your soul with every route. And still, I don't complain. There's some dignity in arriving, in seeing how a shaky signature becomes your ticket home. That sunless afternoon, the air smelled of wet metal and freshly puffed tortillas on the griddle. I had just finished the orange route, notary documents, cell phone spare parts, a cake with more photos than cream, when the opportunity came in. Special services, triple pay, immediate pickup, delivery before dawn. In the internal chat it appeared as scenic transfer, fragile, bulky. Normally, when the label says scenic, it's theater, commercial, exhibition. Strange things, but nothing a deliveryman hasn't seen. I hit accept, almost by instinct. That day I was dragging a late rent and a break estimate that had sat in my mailbox like a threat. I needed the triple pay. I needed the miracle. At the pickup address, San Horacio neighborhood, an old district with wide gates and trees too big for the sidewalks, a black door with a metal peephole and a camera newer than the whole block was waiting for me. I knocked. The peephole opened like an eyelid and returned an impassive eye. Rapido Rojo, I announced, showing the tablet with the order. I'm here for the scenery. The gate slid open with an electric sigh. Inside, the courtyard looked like a set, cold lamps, floor spotless to the extreme, a white van without plates, people who didn't make noise even with their sneakers. A tall guy greeted me, trimmed beard, waterproof jacket, one of those who talk to you as if your minutes belong to them. You're Tico, he said, without asking. You were recommended for being punctual and for not asking questions. I'm Tico, yes. And when there's triple pay, I ask even fewer questions. I tried to sound light. He didn't smile. Perfect. Single load, precise destination. Campos de Santa Bruma, service gate, 2 in the morning. He handed me a plastic folder. Permits, waybill, authorization for scenic transfer for a funerary play. If a patrol stops you, show them this and move on. Campos de Santa Bruma. Not a famous cemetery, but the name dragged an echo. I stored the folder in the passenger seat. Then I saw it. Resting on 2 trestles, covered by a gray tarp, was the elongated bulk I was pretending not to imagine. The guy nodded, and 2 helpers lifted the tarp. It was exactly that. A coffin. Dark wood, unadorned. A design that doesn't scream luxury or poverty. Just polished wood, discreet, with a carnivorous shine under the tube light. Stage prop, the bearded man explained, as if guessing my thoughts. It's for a night performance, city permit, all legal. Don't open it under any circumstances. It's sealed inside to prevent it from opening during the scene. And please, he looked at his hands, handle with care. There's a delicate mechanism inside. Mechanism? Scenic, he recited. If you damage it, the producer comes down on me and I tear up your contract. Weight, 60-some kilograms. Keep it centered in the van, strapped with belts. When you arrive, call me at this number. He gave me a card with a name that sounded like an alias, Vasco. A coffin with a mechanism. Why not? I've seen more extravagances at discreet weddings than at public circuses. We loaded the box carefully. The helpers didn't speak, they looked like temporary robots. When the coffin touched the van floor, it made a dry, honest thud. I secured it with 2 crossed straps and foam blocks. Closed it. The Vasco stared at me intently, like someone memorizing your face to find you if you disappeared. No unnecessary stops, he said. Full tank. Food bought. I'll escort you from a distance until you leave the city. After that, I trust your professionalism. Aha. Tico, he lowered his voice, if you follow all the instructions, tonight you'll go to sleep with a happy wallet. And if not, don't worry about that. It won't happen. I got back into the seat, started the van, and out of reflex turned on the radio. A cumbia screamed, and I turned it off immediately. I didn't want to saturate the evening with canned laughter. I pulled out behind the white van without plates, which led me to the main road. At the light, the Vasco stuck his hand out the window, pointed at the heavy sky, and vanished among taxis and motorcycles. I took the Beltway east, where the city unravels into warehouses, workshops, and signs reading "Blinds repaired here." I repeated the obvious to myself. It's a prop, a heavy piece of furniture, a theatrical whim with a mechanism. I've seen it. Coffins with secret doors for magicians' escapes, double bottoms for illusion. Nothing to worry about. Just drive. Just arrive. Just collect. The drizzle began like someone asking permission. The first tiny drops on the windshield were almost affectionate. The sky changed mood abruptly. In 15 minutes, the Beltway was a carousel of dim lights and pasty shadows. Good weather for a delivery to a graveyard, I thought, trying to laugh at my own cliché. It didn't work. I raised the wiper's speed, adjusted the pace. The clock read 10:31 p.m. I had plenty of time to make it by 2 o'clock. Too much time to think. In the rearview mirror I saw only the curtain of the cargo box, those metal doors I learned to listen to more than to look at. Every van has its symphony, a fine rattling in third gear, a rubber groan on potholes, a whistle when the wind goes mad on the right side. Mine, a GF 250, had always spoken to me in familiar notes. That night, it added a new one. It was faint. A talk. Then silence. Another talk. A weak, irregular rhythm, as if a wire bounced against wood. It could have been anything. The road has fingers to touch your mind. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. In the mute radio, I imagined the voices of my co-workers. Don't get caught in the movie, Tico. It's the wood settling. It's the strap breathing. It's fear wearing a helmet. I kept going. Another 100 meters. Another talk. This time there were 3, with a little pause between them. Talk, talk, talk. I pressed my right shoulder against the window, as if my ear could pierce the air, the cab, the cargo box, the prop, the mechanism, and tell me something understandable. I laughed. It didn't sound like joy. I tapped my fingers on the steering wheel in a different beat, just to mess around. And then the van answered with the same stubbornness. Talk, talk, talk. It's the curve, I told myself. It's the water. It's the wood eating up the moisture. I opened the vent a little. The smell of rain brought with it an aroma that raised goosebumps on my skin. Fresh glue. Not the sweet kind from carpentry. Another one, more chemical, more fong-like. I inhaled deeply and earned a sting in my nose. For a second, I saw a set table with masked technicians, brown tape, varnish sprayers. I clung to the wheel. Don't dismantle the movie. Just drive. The drizzle turned into a downpour. I took the turnoff toward the Santa Bruma Highway. Traffic thinned until it was only long, solitary shadows. At that hour, heavy trailers move like beasts with hunger and sleep. You respect them out of survival, not courtesy. I passed 2, 3. My route turned into a tunnel of trees that seemed to move on their own. My eyes adjusted, and so did my mind, until it happened. It wasn't a knock anymore. It was an answer. 3 hurried bangs, strong enough to make the rearview mirror vibrate. My heart jumped to my throat like a scared cat. I slowed down. At the next emergency bay, I pulled over, left the engine running and, for the first time, silenced everything. Wipers, ventilation, even my breathing if I could. Inside that dome of muted noise, the world became more obvious and crueler. Talk, 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 pause, talk, talk, talk. No, I said out loud, as if talking to myself could carry authority. No, no, no. I looked at the dashboard. Not a single red light. Temperature fine. Tire pressure fine. Everything fine. Except my head. I opened the glove box, pulled out a flashlight, a pair of canvas gloves, the tow hook I use as an emergency lever. I breathed. 0 unnecessary stops. Vasco's voice thundered in me. Don't open it under any circumstance. I swallowed. I understood that, when you're paid triple, there's always an invisible lock. I turned off the engine. The downpour hammered the roof as if trying to break in with kicks. When I opened the door, a metallic cold embraced me. I jumped down and ran to the back, water seeping into my ankles. My flashlight cut through the rain in a pale column. The doors glistened wet. I pressed my palm against the metal. I felt vibration. Not from the wind. Not from the tires. Vibration with a pulse. With intention. Hello, I said slowly. Is someone there? I heard it clearly, despite the rain. 3 knocks. I don't know if you'll believe me, but there are rhythms that make you feel watched. The beat of those knocks wasn't asking permission. It was begging. I took out the key. Opened the latch. The doors gave way with a rusty shriek, which wasn't rust, and the water shoved its back inside the box as if it wanted to baptize everything. The beam of light found the coffin in the middle, perfect, strapped in tight. I spoke to the void like someone greeting a sleeping beast. I'm going to get closer. I climbed up carefully, feet in the grooves, breathing measured. Each step was a coin tossed into a bottomless well. The straps were still taut. There was nothing loose around. Just the coffin. I set the lamp to one side, recharged, so I'd have both hands free. I stroked the wood, cold, flawless, with that varnish that smells like a new shop. And then, without warning, the lid vibrated with a knock from the inside. Not imaginary. Not suggestion. A knock that just pushed the wood against my fingers. Okay, I said, and my voice came out softer than I would have liked. I'm here. The varnish had beads of water sliding toward a discreet funnel at the edge, a gap sealed with clear silicone. There were no locks in sight. No screws. It was a snap fit. A theatrical box of those that don't need hardware because they swallow themselves. If it was a prop, it was made by someone who understands bodies more than furniture. Can you hear me? I asked, and hated myself for the dumb question. 3 knocks. All 3, desperate. I felt my hand become a bridge between 2 worlds. Fear is an animal that learns fast. I wanted to open it immediately. Then I stopped myself. If it's part of something weird, if there's a trap, if the mechanism is a bomb, if they used you as a parable. I shook my head, dripping water, breath making little clouds in the air. I wasn't willing to let a mechanism make me complicit in something else. I looked toward the road, not a headlight, not an engine. Just woods, water, and that box with a heartbeat. Hold on, I whispered. I'll get you out. I slipped the tip of the tow hook between the lid and the body of the coffin, right at the silicone seam. The metal bit in and the silicone resisted with that elastic snap of something that doesn't want to go. I gritted my teeth. Lever upward. A centimeter. Another. The coffin complained with a creak that sounded like the start of a cry. The knocks inside quickened, more hurried, as if whoever it was knew the air was a lever away. 1, 2. The lid gave. The first blast was a smell, a mix of adhesive tape, trapped sweat, and that cheap perfume we call Brave on the street for its persistence. The second blast was a pair of huge, dilated eyes trying to focus light for the first time in hours. They were living eyes. I wet my eyelashes with rain and couldn't blink. In the dim light I made out a young face, mouth covered with tape, hands bound with plastic, and a voice that couldn't come out but gave me a shove in the chest. Calm down, I said, and my voice sounded convinced for the first time. I've got you. I tore the tape from her mouth carefully, with the clumsiness of someone learning another trade in the middle of a storm. She gave a groan that wasn't a complaint but an attempt to be a person again. I leaned in more, using my shoulder to keep the lid open. I pulled out the knife I always keep velcroed to the side of the box. The rain came in like it wanted to be a witness. Don't move, I asked. I'll cut you free. The tape on her wrists was embedded in the skin. I cut sideways, afraid of hurting her. I freed her. I felt her tremble sharply, like an engine trying to start. Her hands flew to her face. She tried to speak. Her voice was like wet paper. Water. I handed her a bottle. She drank the way one learns, in clumsy gulps, with her whole body, with her eyes. Then she hit the lid with a tiny fist, as if reminding the coffin it no longer commanded. Her hair hung to her forehead in loose strands, and her lips bore the marks of the adhesive. In the lamplight her skin looked like porcelain that had seen the world. "What's your name?" I asked. "Melina," she said, as if that word had been waiting behind the tape. Then, quieter, carrying the syllable. "Thank you." I could say I was brave. I wasn't. I was urgent. I took her weight, which was less than the fear, pulled her out of the coffin, and laid her on the van floor. I closed the lid a bit by reflex, as if I didn't want the rain to see what they had done to her. I left the lamp at her side. Its light threw shadows over our bones. "Who did this to you?" Melina swallowed, tested her voice again. She used it carefully, like someone breaking in new shoes. "Men, 3. Masks." One talked, straight, like everything was a schedule. "Did they drug you?" "The first day." Then nothing. Just. She looked at the coffin, The downpour returned our silence. My hands, which are always doing something inside a van, didn't know where to go for the first time. I rested them on my knees. I thought of the Vasco, of the impeccable folder, of the papers in order, of the oddity of a prop that beats. I thought of the silent threat of a well-written contract: don't open, no unnecessary stops, arrive on time. I thought of our sleeping city. "Where did they take you from?" I asked, and let the question be human, not police. "From a parking lot." She looked up. "Outside my job. I left late. I always leave late." "Your job?" "A restaurant. I delivery sometimes too. By motorbike. But mostly in the kitchen." She laughed, or tried to. How ironic. The word delivery struck a place in me I didn't know had a nerve. I don't know if it was because of that, or the rain, or the way she said sometimes, that I decided I wasn't going to leave her again inside any box. Neither wood, nor silence, nor papers signed by anyone. Helping has a price. Not helping does too. I chose my bill. "Let's go somewhere they can see you," I said. Small hospital, nearby town. And then, the police. No, and her no was the size of the night. "To the police, wherever you say. But first, call this number." He pulled from the back pocket of his jeans, which was more tape than fabric, a crumpled little piece of paper, a miraculous capsule of hope. Inside, a number written in pencil, barely legible, soaked but stubborn. "Who is it?" "My boss," she answered. "And someone else." She took a deep breath. "They helped me without meaning to. If I don't get to where they are, the others will think that—" She looked at both of us, at me and at the coffin, as if we were two options, that they succeeded. I slid the paper into the tablet sleeve. I put the knife away. I gave her a waterproof jacket I use for cold storage loads. It hung large on her, like a refuge with a zipper. I closed the box doors. I returned to the cab, started the engine. The motor answered with that familiar rumble that now sounded armed. I stuck half my body out the window. "Get in the front," I told her. "It's safer." I helped her down from the box and up into the cab. She shivered. I adjusted the heater. The van became a warm belly. A sanctuary with plastic and an imaginary taximeter. The windshield was a screen on which the rain projected its unscripted film. I moved slowly. I checked the clock, 11:19 p.m. The official destination was an hour and 40 away, weather permitting. The unofficial one was a town called La Homerada, a name that had always made me laugh until that night, 35 kilometers away. There was a clinic there and a police station that smells of burnt coffee and old papers. There's also a shop that gives me credit and a gordita stand that can vouch for me. With rain, it was 50 minutes. If luck doesn't want to laugh. Are you cold? I asked. I have that shaking that won't go away, she whispered. It's called fear. It goes down with time. And with people. She turned to me with gratitude that was also disbelief. Why did you stop? I didn't know what to say. Delivery drivers almost never stop for anything other than the drop-off. We stop for traffic lights, barriers, fuel. We stop for protocol. Stopping, because you feel, isn't in the manual. Because I heard, I finally said. And because I would hate that one day someone hears my sister banging on a box and doesn't stop. The word sister came out before the thought. Melina picked it up gently, put it away without making a sound. Outside, the forest looked like an animal lying along the road, breathing in hollows. The van dripped safety it didn't have. The wipers kept their own percussion. Not 3 kilometers past when the radio, which I had turned off for sanity, came on by itself, as if an invisible hand had turned the knob. Static, a sting of frequencies, and a voice battered by noise. Unit GF 250, route report, estimated time, over. It wasn't dispatch. It wasn't my dispatcher. I know because my dispatcher pronounces my surname like an old joke. That voice said unit, not Tico. I lowered the volume. Just enough to hear it without letting them hear us inside. Repeat, GF 250, it insisted. Status of the load. Over? Melina looked at me. I looked at her. The van kept moving. The silence became another passenger. GF 250 out of zone, heavy rain, I replied, with the voice of a deliveryman who carries the route from memory. Load intact, moving at 60, over. Copy, the voice dried up. No stops, over. My pulse climbed into the back seat. If someone was monitoring my unit by radio, it wasn't the company. At Rapido Rojo, everything goes through the app, through chat. No one uses military jokes unless they're playing something else. I turned the volume down further and faked a little interference. Signal loss, repeat, signal loss. And I cut it. Melina clutched the jacket. Can they hear you? They want to hear us, I corrected. There's a difference. The La Humarada Road has 2 deceptive curves. They open like a smile and close like a fist. In the first, I saw in the mirror a pair of lights rise from the shoulder of the road, 2 headlights that looked like eyes without sleep. They came onto the road hungry. They followed us at a respectful distance. I measured their intent by centimeters. They gained ground with a lawyer's calm. I pressed my lips together. Adjusted the mirror. In the second curve, they got close enough to read my rear sign. Express service. Call us. Melina, I said softly, strap in tight. And if I tell you to duck, you duck. Are they them? They're someone. Enough for us. The lights closed in until they licked my bumper. The rain erased their face. I accelerated as much as prudence allowed, which is never enough when survival is beating in your gums. The van, old and loyal, responded. It wasn't built for races, but it asked for a little more. The headlights behind held for a moment, as if measuring. Then they decided chess could wait. The car switched to high beams and drenched me, blinding the mirror. I had to look ahead reflexively. In that blind second, the car behind changed lanes and pulled up alongside my left side. Don't box me in, don't box me in, don't box me in, I murmured. It boxed me in. Then I knew they weren't trying to scare, they were trying to steer. A low-speed sandwich. The invisible no-stops barrier incarnated as a car without plates that wanted to turn me into a straight line. The deliverman's instinct, that which makes you squeeze between 2 trucks like someone singing low, activated on its own. I eased a hair, let off the gas, let the enemy car get 10 centimeters ahead. Enough. Then I steered the van onto the right shoulder through a puddle that looked like a mirror. The car tried to copy, too late. It ended up scraping the wall, braked hard, and blasted a horn salvo at me that was more insult than warning. Duck down, I said. Melina obeyed with the immediacy of someone who has already learned that obedience can heal. By a blue sign with a white arrow, I saw the old road to the brick kilns, packed earth that turns into an embankment with rain. I knew that shortcut. It's longer in mileage, shorter in outcome when you're chased in a straightaway. The van jolted as we entered, water up to the rims. The wipers gave their best fight. The car behind hesitated to follow us, thought it over, and thought wrong. It entered. Waterlogged dirt doesn't like wide-tire cars. I heard them skid, dance, weigh heavy. At 100 meters, the road split in two. A crack to the left led to a frozen construction site, the right to a row of dead brick chimneys. I took the right. Don't look for logic. I looked for smoke that wasn't there, for people who don't work at that hour. I only needed curves, shadow, column, time. "Tico," Melina whispered, barely peeking her eyes over the edge of the jacket. "If they catch up, they won't catch us." I wasn't sure. But that's how you talk when you are someone else's steering wheel. On the third dirt curve, the enemy car skidded, cut inside, came at me with new determination. On the windshield, the rain became needle. Out the window, an engine shriek told me they had insisted on the impossible. I shifted to second, let the torque speak for me, and the van, blessed, climbed like a stubborn mule up a short slope skirting the brickworks. The car didn't have time to correct. I saw it overshoot, sink in mud up to the axles, lights spinning like drunken eyes. It wouldn't stay there forever, but it gave us the minutes we needed. I returned to the main dirt road. In the distance, the town of La Humarada sketched its necklace of little lights. My radio tried to resurrect again. This time it did so desperately. "GF 250. Respond." Unauthorized detour. I shut it off sharply. I didn't want voice ghosts in the cab. I wanted silence and heartbeats that belonged to me. "Are you dizzy?" I asked, slowing a little so as not to break the suspension. "I used to get dizzy in, you know," she looked forward. Here, no. Good. When we hit the asphalt ribbon that led into La Humarada, the clock read 12:07. Midnight and 7. We had survived exactly the part of the night when the city doesn't blink, it rests. We entered the town through the street of the workshops. At that hour, only the hardware store's dog bothered to bark at us without much will. The clinic was 5 blocks away, but before that, a traffic light that never works decided to turn red out of spite. I smiled with anger. Stopped. Checked mirrors. Nothing. Silence of a lamp post. Neutral gear. The wipers beat their tired rhythm. "Tico," Melina said my name like someone testing it for the first time. "If someone offers you more money to return me, don't take it." And she smiled with the saddest bravery I've seen. That would make a really bad joke, right? Here the only bad joke is the one who thought you wouldn't fight back. The light stayed red because some lights don't want to help. I crossed carefully, just in case. 3 blocks later, I parked in front of the clinic. Got out. The rain had lowered its volume. I helped Melina out of the cab. When her feet touched solid ground, her legs trembled as if they weren't hers. I held her by the elbow. The automatic door didn't bother to open quickly. In small towns, even the automatic takes its time. Inside, smell of chlorine, cold lights, a receptionist who startled at seeing us drenched, with the look of someone who carried a coffin and brought back life. "We need help," I said, unrehearsed. "She comes from where no one should come." The receptionist raised her eyebrow, pressed a button as if with that she could undo the night, and called a doctor who still had sleep stuck to his eyes. They didn't ask us as many questions as I would have expected. The world still has places where compassion comes before protocol. They laid her down, checked signs, oxygen, soft words. Meanwhile, I dialed the number on Melina's paper. It rang long. A female voice answered, dry, so attentive it cut. "Yes. My name is Tico. I'm with Melina. I'm at the La Humarada clinic." A silence broken by quick breathing. Then, 2 words that were an electric hug. "We're coming." I hung up. The doctor asked me for details. I didn't have many. That's when a municipal policeman appeared with the look of, This is the moment when everything gets complicated. I let him look into my soul and he found nothing worth arresting. Then the automatic door opened again. 2 drenched people came in who didn't look like they belonged to the town. A woman in her 30s with a delivery jacket. Yes, delivery, with the brand of a company that wasn't mine, and a gray-haired man with eyes of a theater director or funeral home. I couldn't tell. Melina. The woman reached her side in 3 strides, held her face. I told you if anything happened, you'd make earthquake noise. I made noise, Melina smiled, still on 4, with a new voice. And someone listened. The woman looked at me with more than gratitude. With recognition. You're a deliveryman. She didn't ask, she stated. Yes. Then you know what you did. I nodded. And didn't. She introduced herself as Jasmine. They call me Jazz, night route supervisor for Cometa, another platform. The gray-haired man, whom I had read as funeral guy, was something else, a lawyer. Not a lounge lawyer. An emergency lawyer. He carried with him a briefcase that didn't jingle. Jazz explained to me in 2 rushed sentences what I hadn't known all my life. Melina had begun to suspect a network that used fake delivery cars to snatch girls in parking lots. She herself had seen a strange scene 3 nights before. Took plates that didn't exist, faces that knew how to erase themselves. And then, on the next shift, they grabbed her. We tracked her by GPS, but they shut everything off. Jazz clenched her fists. They had a pattern, routes toward fields, dead hours, rains. They put fear into the equation. The municipal cop swallowed, as if his blank slate had just been filled with graffiti. The lawyer spoke without frills. They think you're still taking her to Santa Bruma. I remembered the radio. The voice. The car without plates. My stomach made the sound of a drowned engine. Then, I asked very slowly, who was I delivering to? The lawyer looked at me with a serenity that was also controlled panic. To the same ones who invented the perfect permit. I looked at my hands. They had tiny invisible splinters of silicone and varnish, and they trembled. I thought of the folder resting on the van's seat, of the name Vasco, printed on a card that looked legal. I thought of what I didn't know, of what I did. I saw Melina with a needle in her vein, the momentary serenity of someone who no longer breathes borrowed air. And I knew that at that moment the story wasn't over. It had only managed to get out of one box to fall into another, bigger one. The municipal policeman said he was going to call the state police. Jazz said she was going to call her people. The lawyer said he was going to call no one. Sometimes the first call is the first thing that leaks. I said nothing. Looked at the fogged window. Outside, the rain was easing. In the parking lot, my van looked like a tired animal waiting for orders. A message buzzed on my phone. Unknown number. Don't open. Delivery intact or no pay. For the first time that night, I laughed from a place I didn't know. It wasn't humor. It was defiance. Tico, Melina's voice called me, soft. Don't leave me alone. Not a chance, I replied. The woman in the delivery jacket came closer. We can fix things with your company, if they want to cut you off, she told me with a glint of, we've done this before. But we can also do something better. What? You can help us deliver something different. And she showed me the map of an app one didn't have, routes marked by disappearance patterns, shadow zones, exact times of rain. It was a map no delivery driver wants to see, but someone has to look at. I didn't answer. I clenched my teeth. Looked at Melina again. And understood that my night had changed jobs without asking my permission. The doctor said they needed 1 more hour with her. I said I had 1 hour to forget Santa Bruma. Jazz said she had half an hour to make La Homerada a perfect place to hide not bodies, but decisions. The lawyer said that, if we were going to play, we knew the cost. And the policeman, who isn't dumb, said he was going for coffee. At 12:51, the rain became a damp memory. I took the folder of effervescent permits and placed it on the clinic table as if it were a strange fish. We opened it. Everything was in order. Stamps, signatures, numbers, inks that smell legal. The lawyer smiled sideways and looked where no one looks. A stamp was missing. A tiny stamp an obsessive clerk places on Saturday shifts. The perfect fallacy had a crumb off the tablecloth. "They're not from here," he said. "The paper style is from another printer. This is a well-made mask." "And now?" I asked. Jazz put her finger on a spot on the map that looked like a mole on the town's skin. "Now, you deliver what you promised." And she looked at me with eyes that call to war. "But not to Santa Bruma." "Where, then?" "To us." "How do you deliver a deception?" "Like you deliver all important things, with noise and with a lot of calm." I knew the longest part of the night was coming. And I knew that, although I am a deliverman and I know the rules of 0 stops, 0 questions, 0 drama, that dawn I was going to start writing another manual. The clinic's automatic door closed behind the policeman who went out for coffee, and the world shrank to the buzz of fluorescent lights and the drip of the 4 in Melina's arm. I watched my van through the window like someone looks at a tired horse before saddling it again. Jazz leaned her elbows on the table, over the permit folder that smelled too new to be true. The lawyer studied the seals with eyes that forgive no detail. And I, deliverman whose route the dawn had changed without permission, found myself doing what I never did, planning beyond the next traffic light. "We're going to deliver," said Jazz, and that word no longer resembled anything it had ever meant in my life. "But the delivery will be of noise, not cargo." "Trap," I translated, more to understand myself than to understand her. "Trap," she confirmed, and showed me her app screen. "Look at this." These points are reports from bikes and vans that saw strange things. They all cross through the Santa Bruma cordon on rainy nights. The storm is the curtain. The lawyer pointed at the fake seal on the scenic transfer authorization. "If you get to the service gate at 2 a.m. sharp with these papers, they'll open smiling." Lies live well behind a desk. "But we're not going to arrive at 2 o'clock, I said, testing the edge of the idea. "We're going to arrive earlier," Jazz corrected. "And we're going to arrive with a van just like yours that's already ready to roll from Cometa's warehouse. Similar brand, similar color. We've spent 3 years looking at the same streets. We have clones of almost everything." "And the coffin?" "Your coffin stays here, under custody," said the lawyer. "And if anyone asks, that box never existed. But we're going to take a box. Empty. With microphones. With trackers. With a will to talk." I looked at Melina. Even with the 4, her gaze was awake, alert, like those who know darkness doesn't disappear. You just learn to walk in it. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, reading my worry. "Stay calm. I already did my part. Knocking. Don't worry," I promised, without knowing exactly what I was committing to. "I owe you the way back home. And I owe it to myself." Jazz picked up the folder, put it in a waterproof backpack, and gave me another, black, without logos. "Here are 2 GPS beacons, a button camera that looks like a clip, and a directional microphone. The camera goes on your vest, the mic on the lapel. Beacon number 1 goes in your van. Number 2 goes hidden in the latch key of the back gate. If they ask you to get out, let it fall by accident. If they tell you to drive the van inside, leave beacon 1 on the ground. We want to hear them and we want to find them. And if they want to open the box, let them. What's inside is a night live and direct." The policeman came back with 2 cups of coffee and the happy clumsiness of someone who thinks caffeine fixes nightmares. Jazz smiled at him as if he'd just done something heroic. "I need patrols that aren't on the map," she asked. "That is, patrols that don't report to anyone over radio until I say so." The municipal raised his eyebrows. He understood more than I had imagined. "There are 2 rurals who use the baseball team's chat," he said. "If I write, practice at 2, they'll show up at the municipal field. If I write, new glove, they'll bring the vest. They don't ask much. They like hitting the ball." "Right then," approved Jazz. "And tell them I'm bringing the glove." The lawyer came up to me, lowered his voice. "Tico, they're going to ask you things. You're going to say little. Don't explain anything they don't ask. Don't offer names. If they pin you down, if they want to break you, don't be a hero. Record. And when you feel it's time, You call me with this. He put in my palm a little black button the size of an aspirin. What does it do? It calls me. And sends me your exact location with a message, match. Match. The night lights up with one, he smiled. Jazz checked the time. 0:58. We have 80 minutes. We're going to clone your van. It wasn't magic. It was craft. We crossed the street to Don Dacio's workshop, that man who fixes things with a wire, a saying, and a miracle. From his warehouse rolled out a twin GF 250 with black tape covering the logo and a dent in the door that gave authenticity. 3 Cometa delivery drivers circled it with the devotion of Formula One mechanics. In 10 minutes they fitted the blocks, the straps, a false wooden floor with hidden microphones and a tiny speaker under the platform, in case someone wanted to hear something knocking. Jazz winked at me because she loves irony. The trap was going to play its own music. You driving it? She asked. I'm driving it, I replied. It's my route. And my debt. We placed the empty box. To Drizzle's eye, it was the same. Closed it. Tested the microphones. The lawyer climbed in back with a tablet to monitor audio. Jazz pulled out with her own van, which would shadow at a distance. The municipal policeman notified his rurals from the baseball team. Everything done in whispers, like plays staged so the critic won't understand until the applause. Before getting in, I went back to the clinic. Melina was waiting with that new patience you build when time has turned enemy. I put my hand on her shoulder. I'm going, I said. I'll be back. I know you will, she replied. And if you don't come back, I'll know you tried. I couldn't take it. I smiled. She gave me back the smile without asking Payne's permission. At 1:21 we left for Santa Bruma. The rain was no longer a blanket, it was a moist fog that clings like a secret. Driving in those conditions isn't going slow, it's going fine. Ahead, my cloned van. Behind, 2 curves back, Jazz's. Further behind, invisible even to me, the rurals from the baseball team with their vests that smell of dust and mint gum. The old radio Jazz had installed in the clone purred like an electric cat. GF 250, report. I breathed deep. En route, I said. No stops. On-time delivery. Copy, pause. There's a detour due to a landslide at kilometer 19. Take the Alamos access. I looked for Jazz in the mirror. I couldn't see her, but I felt her bite back an insult. The Alamos access didn't exist on official maps. It was a path used by brick trucks to avoid toll booths when they pretended to be distracted. People who think they own the nights learn shortcuts that aren't drawn. Received, I said, in the voice of a man who says, received, all the time. The Alamos access seemed pulled from a memory that wasn't mine. Trees too alike, stones that remember everyone who passed. The clone moved with the composure of what pretends. 15 minutes later, the voice returned. GF 250. Confirm the load remains intact. Confirmed, and I knocked twice on the box with my knuckles. The lawyer behind activated the speaker under the floor, and the box replied with a hollow talk, convincing enough for a mediocre ear, false enough for an ear that knows, but no one running extortions thinks the world sounds true. Copy, said the voice. You arrive through the service gate. The guard will indicate side pit. You go in, drop, leave. Don't stop. Don't look. Don't comment. The lawyer and I looked at each other in the mirror and, for the first time all night, I knew that the rage of a calm man is more dangerous than the fury of a shouting man. I saw him clench his jaw. Repeat the instruction. I asked, to buy 2 seconds, to register it deep, to be able to hate it methodically. Side pit, the voice repeated, as if saying, bakery on the corner. Service gate. Guard. You go in. Drop. Leave. Received. The access vomited us into a secondary path running parallel to Santa Bruma's walls. The cemetery appeared like a geography of straight shadows. From the outside, a graveyard is a silent chessboard. From the inside, who knows? We reached the back gate. A bulb flickered with bad attitude, and a man in a gray raincoat looked at his watch, then my windshield, then his watch again. Seeing me, he pointed with 2 fingers toward the side. "You're late," he said, without courtesy. "The Alamos access," I shrugged. "It swallowed a buddy. Go on." I rolled the window down just enough for the rain to hit his nose. I handed him the papers. He didn't read a damn thing. He held them with his left hand while guiding me with his flashlight in the right. Straight. Hugging the wall. Slowly. "You don't want to step on anyone's roof." The radio's voice tried to sneak in again. I slapped it down. Drove. The lawyer was whispering things into his tablet, like someone singing Not to Wake a Dog. In the back, behind the mausoleums, a darker zone showed where there were no plaques or flowers. Fresh earth, without memories. At night, cemeteries have their own geography. The dead are arranged by ages, by stories, by who misses them. The area we were sent to had no one's memory. The guard opened a side gate made of wire mesh. The tire rolled over a puddle that smelled of more than rain. He pointed with the light at a rectangle of earth marked by shovels. Sometimes recognizing evil is as simple as seeing a tool out of place. "There." I braked gently. The lawyer, from the back, made a hand sign meaning, "We're here." Jazz, over the hidden radio only we could hear, said, "I'm where I need to be." The baseball team rurals stopped talking about the pitcher and put on their helmets. The guard came up to my door. "You get down alone," he ordered. "Nobody else. Open. Drop. Close. And leave. No signature?" I asked, with the professional idiocy of someone demanding a delivery slip in the middle of a pit. "Did you feel like living?" He smiled, and the smile didn't suit him. I swallowed an answer. Turned off the engine. Put on gloves. Opened the back gate. The rain was now the soundtrack of a film that didn't want to be shot. The guard came closer with his flashlight. "Want me to help you?" "No," I said. "I can." The box weighed less than my guilt. I slid it down the ramps. Left it by the rectangle of earth. I noticed by sheer bad habit that the guard wore new boots. A cemetery is walked in old shoes. His boots stepped on the rain as if they had never felt the earth. That gave him away as a frequent visitor of other pavements. "Open it," he ordered. I swallowed. My hand was inside my sweatshirt, pressing the little match button like it was a prayer. I levered the edge with the bar. The lid gave. Inside, empty. Beautiful, clean, suggestive. The guard shone the lamp inside. He saw what he wanted to see. Nothing. What he didn't see was the microphone like a moon in one corner, nor the tracker stuck beneath the wooden cross inside, nor the speaker hidden where few things hide, in plain sight. "Good," he said. "Close it." "Don't you want to see it breathe?" I asked, and now irony slipped out through a crack I could no longer shut. He looked at me a second and dragged his tongue across his teeth. "You were smart," he admitted. "Don't be smart twice." I closed. Didn't push. Adjusted. "Where do I sign?" The guard let out the laugh that had been stuck for hours. "Sign with your distance. Go." And that's where it should have ended. I should have turned back, driven to the exit, collected a life and left a trap. But the night, no longer drizzle, decided it needed another twist. At the edge of the memoryless zone, 2 pairs of lights lit up at once. They weren't patrols. They weren't rurals. They were people in a hurry. They came walking from the main gate in a hooded procession. Men with hoods, a briefcase, and one who wasn't just anyone, the Vasco. The Vasco had the same trimmed beard and the same watch that hours earlier had tried to buy my silence with decimals. His eyes scanned the cemetery like someone entering his living room. He looked at me and smiled with the insolence of one who believes the universe is a plan in his favor. "I told you, no stops," he greeted. "And still, you arrived." "Good." I didn't answer. He came up to the box, touched it like one touches an object deserving respect or blasphemy. "Close it and leave." "Already closed." "Perfect. Now, leave us." The guard and the Vasco spoke in a language outsiders don't learn. Jargon of jobs paid in cash and justified with poems scribbled on the back of a receipt. I took 2 steps toward my van. And then the lawyer, over the inner radio, said in a very low voice, "Match." I pressed the button. That tiny click traveled to the phone of a man who always seemed 2 calls away from any disaster. The rurals who played baseball read "New Glove" in their chat and turned their caps backward. Jazz looked through a scope at Vasco's silhouette and aimed at him with something that doesn't fire: patience. Vasco gave a signal. The hooded men opened the lid to, "What?" "See. Confirm. Mock." The flashlight lit the emptiness. One cursed. Another searched for the emergency mechanism I hadn't been able to find because it didn't exist. Vasco turned to me, now with a smile less whole. "Tomas?" He said my name like private property. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. The rain turned up its volume as if the scene needed an orchestra. Vasco came closer, sober. The hooded men circled the box. The guard stepped 1 pace to the left, leaving a small gap between himself and the fence. Small, but breathable. And I, who've spent years entering warehouses with obstacles, see gaps the way others see stairs on flat walls. I took 2 steps toward that air. "Don't even think about it," warned the guard politely. Then another bell rang. Not the lawyer's phone, nor the baseball chat, nor the bad radio. A woman's scream. Not Jazz's. Not anyone's from our side. It came from inside the cemetery, from the direction of the old niches, and it had that tone that only happens when fear is faster than the voice. We all turned. Even the hooded men. Even Vasco. I didn't. I ran. 2 steps. 3. 4. I slipped through the fence gap as if the van were that size. The guard tried to grab my vest. He got the lapel. The mic fell. I kept going. A van doesn't move by itself, but the inertia of a Deliveryman mid-drop drags metal if needed. I wasn't dragging metal. I was dragging the rules. "Stop." One shouted, by protocol. I didn't stop. The fence vibrated. My boots splashed through puddles. Vasco didn't run. He gave an order. And from the shadows came 2 more, with their hands full. I didn't see weapons. I saw intentions. Instinct, street instinct, night delivery instinct, the instinct of someone who smelled hungry corners. I dove behind a mausoleum with an illegible name. Held my breath. GF 250. The bad radio screamed from the seat. "Get back on route." I killed it with a kick. The lawyer said, through the inner speaker, I don't know how he did so many things at once. "Hold." From the north, which in a cemetery is a flexible concept, the engine of a truck that makes no noise was heard. Then came the opposite of silence. Sirens that don't want to be discreet. Patrols. The baseball team rurals had changed games. On the fence appeared the light of a spotlight asking, "What are we seeing?" The guard lost his smile. Vasco didn't. He gave another order. And the hooded men did what they do best, disappear through places only they think they know. I went back to the dirt plot. The coffin was still open like a mouth. I wanted to close it out of habit. Left it open out of justice. Vasco got into his truck with the calm of someone who has rehearsed retreat. I ran to my van. Jazz appeared on the side, lights off, engine purring lightly. The lawyer stuck his head out the back like someone emerging from a hiding place in a farce. "Close up and leave," ordered Jazz over the internal line. "To the clinic. Play along with the one pretending not to know he lost. And them. Let them run among tombs. That way they get to know each other better." I started. Drove out. A patrol blocked me 2 seconds to ask if I was me. The cop saw my eyes, and knew I didn't have time for identities. Mine was about not dying. He let me through. I passed. Went out the gate with the strange feeling that a tombstone was bidding me farewell. The road back to La Humarada was different. Not because the rain changed, nor because the road had learned manners. It was different because now I carried more than microphones and trackers. I carried proof of an intention. And when you have that, the darkness doesn't scare you for what it brings, but for what it reveals. At the clinic, Melina wasn't asleep. Jazz came in behind me with the lawyer, pausing first to give a hug that needed no introduction. The municipal cop arrived with the rurals who were now legitimate patrols, and a couple of state police who pretended they'd been part of the operation all along. On the small waiting room TV, on a local channel that at that hour reruns soap operas, appeared an improvised ticker, Police Movement at Santa Bruma Fields. Authorities investigate. The lawyer sat across from me, put his hand on my shoulder with the gravity of someone who doesn't use the gesture unless it's necessary. "They're screwed," he said, without Latin. "Did they catch them already?" 1. The guard is singing, and when he runs out of notes, we shut off the music. The others think they're invisible because they know dirt roads. The city, if you look at it with affection, has nowhere to hide the arrogant. And Vasco? He'll hide for a while. And when he steps out for a coffee, we'll take his picture. Melina smiled with half her face and adjusted the blanket. "When can I leave?" she asked the nurse. "I've got the night shift tomorrow. In the kitchen, not on the bike. Tomorrow you don't work," I cut in, with the little right the night gave me. "Tomorrow you stay alive, that's enough of a job. You delivery guys always think you have to get back on route the next day," she shot back, with humor that already sounded like Melina. "Sometimes it's okay to show up late." "Don't say that or I'll turn it into a lifestyle," I smiled. The nurse said medical things that sounded like good news. The lawyer stood up to make calls that would pull papers from where papers hide. Jazz, still in her soaked jacket, opened her apps map and, with a marker invisible to everyone but her, drew an X over the Santa Bruma cordon. "Not here anymore," she said. "They won't come back here." The dawn stretched like a rubber band. 2 became 3 and 3 became 4 with the slow noise of the coffee machine, which finally confessed it was coffee. Outside, the rain stopped making excuses. Inside, the waiting room filled with people who didn't need to be there but wanted to. 2 Cometa couriers with helmets under their arms, a bakery lady bringing sweet bread to the ER, just in case, Mechanic Dacio with his tool bag in case something needed opening, the receptionist with alert eyes and an extra blanket in case someone trembled, and the rural cop who wasn't playing baseball that night, in case someone was looking for one. Each, just in case, was a declaration of war against the habit that couriers and night people are always alone. At 5:17, when the sky began to turn into something pale that wasn't morning yet, my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "Keep the money. You'll need it." I laughed outwardly, because inside I wanted to smash something. "Money?" I showed the message to Jazz. "They buy the shame of many with pesos that run out," she said. "We collect differently." "How?" "With street. With maps. With eyes." The lawyer returned with a tired face and the controlled satisfaction of someone who patches a hole just in time. "There are search warrants," he announced. "And arrest warrants. And a prosecutor who won't play asleep this time because he smells cameras." "Cameras?" I asked, glancing at the TV, which was already on the news. "Mine," answered Jazz. "But before theirs arrive, we already have ours." "And me?" I heard myself ask, like a kid wanting homework. "Don't even think about it," warned the guard politely. Then another bell rang. Not the lawyer's phone, nor the baseball chat, nor the bad radio. A woman's scream. Not Jazz's. Not anyone's from our side. It came from inside the cemetery, from the direction of the old niches, and it had that tone that only happens when fear is faster than the voice. We all turned. Even the hooded men. Even Vasco. I didn't. I ran. 2 steps. 3. 4. I slipped through the fence gap as if the van were that size. The guard tried to grab my vest. He got the lapel. The mic fell. I kept going. A van doesn't move by itself, but the inertia of a Deliveryman mid-drop drags metal if needed. I wasn't dragging metal. I was dragging the rules. "Stop." One shouted, by protocol. I didn't stop. The fence vibrated. My boots splashed through puddles. Vasco didn't run. He gave an order. And from the shadows came 2 more, with their hands full. I didn't see weapons. I saw intentions. Instinct, street instinct, night delivery instinct, the instinct of someone who smelled hungry corners. I dove behind a mausoleum with an illegible name. Held my breath. GF 250. The bad radio screamed from the seat. Get back on route. I killed it with a kick. The lawyer said, through the inner speaker, I don't know how he did so many things at once. Hold. From the north, which in a cemetery is a flexible concept, the engine of a truck that makes no noise was heard. Then came the opposite of silence. Sirens that don't want to be discreet. Patrols. The baseball team rurals had changed games. On the fence appeared the light of a spotlight asking, "What are we seeing?" The guard lost his smile. Vasco didn't. He gave another order. And the hooded men did what they do best, disappear through places only they think they know. I went back to the dirt plot. The coffin was still open like a mouth. I wanted to close it out of habit. Left it open out of justice. Vasco got into his truck with the calm of someone who has rehearsed retreat. I ran to my van. Jazz appeared on the side, lights off, engine purring lightly. The lawyer stuck his head out the back like someone emerging from a hiding place in a farce. Close up and leave, ordered Jazz over the internal line. To the clinic. Play along with the one pretending not to know he lost. And them. Let them run among tombs. That way they get to know each other better. I started. Drove out. A patrol blocked me 2 seconds to ask if I was me. The cop saw my eyes, and knew I didn't have time for identities. Mine was about not dying. He let me through. I passed. Went out the gate with the strange feeling that a tombstone was bidding me farewell. The road back to La Humarada was different. Not because the rain changed, nor because the road had learned manners. It was different because now I carried more than microphones and trackers. I carried proof of an intention. And when you have that, the darkness doesn't scare you for what it brings, but for what it reveals. At the clinic, Melina wasn't asleep. Jazz came in behind me with the lawyer, pausing first to give a hug that needed no introduction. The municipal cop arrived with the rurals who were now legitimate patrols, and a couple of state police who pretended they'd been part of the operation all along. On the small waiting room TV, on a local channel that at that hour reruns soap operas, appeared an improvised ticker, Police Movement at Santa Bruma Fields, Authorities Investigate. The lawyer sat across from me, put his hand on my shoulder with the gravity of someone who doesn't use the gesture unless it's necessary. They're screwed, he said, without Latin. Did they catch them already? 1. The guard is singing. And when he runs out of notes, we shut off the music. The others think they're invisible because they know dirt roads. The city, if you look at it with affection, has nowhere to hide the arrogant. And Vasco? He'll hide for a while. And when he steps out for a coffee, we'll take his picture. Melina smiled with half her face and adjusted the blanket. When can I leave? She asked the nurse. I've got the night shift tomorrow. In the kitchen, not on the bike. Tomorrow you don't work, I cut in, with the little right the night gave me. Tomorrow you stay alive, that's enough of a job. You delivery guys always think you have to get back on route the next day. She shot back, with humor that already sounded like Melina. Sometimes it's okay to show up late. Don't say that or I'll turn it into a lifestyle, I smiled. The nurse said medical things that sounded like good news. The lawyer stood up to make calls that would pull papers from where papers hide. Jazz, still in her soaked jacket, opened her apps map and, with a marker invisible to everyone but her, drew an X over the Santa Bruma cordon. Not here anymore, she said. They won't come back here. The dawn stretched like a rubber band. 2 became 3 and 3 became 4 with the slow noise of the coffee machine, which finally confessed it was coffee. Outside, the rain stopped making excuses. Inside, the waiting room filled with people who didn't need to be there but wanted to. 2 Cometa couriers with helmets under their arms, a bakery lady bringing sweet bread to the ER, just in case, Mechanic Dacio with his tool bag in case something needed opening, the receptionist with alert eyes and an extra blanket in case someone trembled, and the rural cop who wasn't playing baseball that night, in case someone was looking for one. Each, just in case, was a declaration of war against the habit that couriers and night people are always alone. At 5:17, When the sky began to turn into something pale that wasn't morning yet, my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Keep the money. You'll need it. I laughed outwardly, because inside I wanted to smash something. Money. I showed the message to Jazz. They buy the shame of many with pesos that run out, she said. We collect differently. How? With street. With maps. With eyes. The lawyer returned with a tired face and the controlled satisfaction of someone who patches a hole just in time. There are search warrants, he announced. And arrest warrants. And a prosecutor who won't play asleep this time because he smells cameras. Cameras? I asked, glancing at the TV, which was already on the news. Mine, answered Jazz. But before theirs arrive, we already have ours. And me? I heard myself ask, like a kid wanting homework. The storm's time passed. Scars remained. Cities always keep some, sometimes they show them. The side fence of Santa Bruma now has real locks and entry logs that don't depend on a guard's mood. La Homerata Clinic has on its bulletin board a note with a phone number that says, if you hear things you shouldn't, call. At Cometa's warehouse they put up a board where we pin routes that smell wrong. We call it the map of what we don't ignore. One day, without rain, my company Rapido Rojo sent me a strange recognition, an email with a thank you for representing the company's values. I read it on my phone, leaning against the wheel, eating a torta with avocado as God intended. I didn't reply. I invent the company's values myself at every crossing, every door, every sign here, please. Sometimes companies reach the end of the route with us. Sometimes not. If you ask me about Vasco, I'll tell the truth. They caught him one morning, buying coffee at a stand where the only signal is the stairs. 2 couriers he had tried to hire with cash envelopes had followed him. Nobody wants ghost tips anymore. On his phone they found maps that looked a lot like Jazz's, but with silence points instead of watch points. Now he's in a prison with walls that don't rain. The guard sings in a new choir, that of those who offer deals at the last minute. I'm no longer interested in his notes or his silences. What does interest me is what changed for me. I'm still Tico, the guy with the GF 250 with scratched bumpers. I still know which bakery opens before the roosters find out, which warehouse guard asks for an anecdote in exchange for signing, which building has a neighbor who gives you lemonade in case it's hot, which toll booth looks at you like you're not human. But now I also carry with me an invisible map layered over the avenues, zones where I listen more, corners that smell of intentions, routes where I lower the music to raise the street's volume. And Melina? Melina lives. She repeats the word like a mantra. Cooks with hands that no longer tremble, except when chopping onions. Rides the bike sometimes, but with a new helmet, lights like a party, routes she chose herself. Sometimes we cross paths. We greet with an index finger lifted as a sign of, keep going. And every now and then we sit down for coffee without urgency, which is a way of celebrating life. If you stayed until here, maybe you expected a bigger explosion at the end, a fire that finished off the bad guys and left the nights clean as freshly swept streets. But the Deliveryman's life doesn't work that way. Victories are small and constant, not grand and unique. The rain will come back. Someone will try something else somewhere else. The map will move. And we, the ones with vests, stickered helmets, and tape-stained hands, will have to decide every day whether to listen or leave the noise for whoever comes behind. So, if this story serves you for anything, let it be this. When the world knocks on your door from the inside, don't turn up the music. Slow down, get out of the vehicle, look. If you smell a permit too perfect, ask who printed it. If a client talks about a scenic delivery, with the voice of a bad actor, think twice. And if you ever have to knock from inside a box, knock 3 times. There will always be someone like us willing to listen. My name is Tomas Herrera, but the street calls me Tico. I'm a deliveryman. And that night I didn't deliver a coffin. I delivered a signal. It was received by other couriers, a clinic smelling of chlorine, a lawyer who isn't scared of stamps, a cop who plays baseball, a woman who makes maps, and a girl who knew how to be noise. If you made it to the end, thank you for listening. And if you're one of mine, one of those who carry the city in their hands, subscribe and stick around, because every week I'll tell you another route where what matters isn't the package, but what dares to beat inside.